I'm very pleased presenting in this 7 days. I'm sorry. I've been given 3 days to present today, and I shall start. Sir, if you could start the slides.
Yes, madam. Okay, madam. Wait for a while.
Yes, sure.
Is it visible, ma'am?
Not yet, sir.
Wait for a while. Yes, ma'am. Is it visible now?
I can see your screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Is it visible?
Yes, it is. It is
Okay, ma'am. Continue.
visible, sir. Okay. Um, so I would like to talk about, and I'm really glad these topics were given to me by the organizers: leadership, empathy, and improved office culture. Without further ado, let's begin with our topics. So, next slide, sir. Now, the question.
Madam. Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
What
Hello.
skills? It's widely different. Leadership means different things. Yes. Can you not hear my voice?
No, madam. Yeah, I think that is network problem with your side. Better you can sit in balcony and you can continue.
Actually, the Wi-Fi is right here.
Probably your connectivity is not good. It is very poor, it seems, ma'am.
Is it? How about now, sir? Is
Uh,
it still
uh,
bad?
it is good, but we could not manage to get your voice properly, ma'am.
Oh, is it? Actually, I can hear my echo. Now it's fine.
Now, madam.
Yeah, can I speak now? I mean, can you hear my voice
Yes, yes,
clearly?
of course, ma'am.
Should I go ahead or you suggest that I move somewhere else?
Whether it is voice is audible,
Okay.
whether it is echoing
If
or
go on, it is audible.
okay, ma'am. You can continue.
ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ರಿ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ ಲೈವ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ
Shall I start, sir?
Yes, yes, of course you can, ma'am.
Okay. Now, leadership means different things in different situations and different people in the world. Now, a few of the examples can be community leadership, religious leadership, political leadership, and leadership in an organization, etc. Now, what leaders do? Leaders do basically. They set direction, they build an inspiring vision, and they create something new every time. And when we now leadership is also about streamlining where you need to go to win as a team or as an organization. It's not on an individual level when it comes to leadership. It's always the team which comes first. It's always the organization that comes first. Now, the strongest organization and groups, they usually tend to permit and actively encourage each member of the group to take organization the lead, to take the lead at the appropriate point. You can say a leader one who always leads and takes the lead at every point, at every juncture. But it is not so. Leadership is, a successful leadership is about letting your employees lead at the right time. That is leadership. That is right leadership. Now, in contrast to good leadership, if you say organizations and families with particularly controlling patriarchal leaders, I'm not talking about the other kind of leaders. This is a different kind of leaders who are controlling and patriarchal. And these kind of organizations, or even families for that matter, they tend to be fairly dysfunctional. Sir, next slide, please. So, how is the concept of being a leader different from being a manager? When we talk about leaders, we cannot ignore a manager or his role. Now, so you might have heard leaders do the right thing and managers do things right. Now, you cannot say leader always does the right thing. He can never go wrong. But whereas on the other hand, managers do things right. They set things right. Now, this is a very delicate situation, and a very delicate distinction. And many leaders are also managers and vice versa. It can't be, you cannot say a person is just a leader or he or she is just a manager. It can be vice versa as well. A manager can be a leader can be a manager. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, there is a lot of noise in the background. I can hear. Probably that's because I can hear the background from.
Wait, ma'am. I'll make them to.
So,
I'll ask them.
okay, okay.
I request all the participants, please mute your audios so that you can clearly hear. Once again, I request all the participants to mute their audios, please.
The previous slide, actually, previous slide. It is not over yet. Yeah, this one. Yeah. Now, what is the key difference between a leader and a manager? The key difference is that leaders are expected to communicate a vision. They have to visualize first and then communicate it to their team. And managers, on the other hand, they mostly maintain the status quo. Status quo is the present situation of things, however they are. They maintain that. Whereas a leader, he has a vision of the future and he communicates it to his team to work towards a goal, a common aim. Now, the main difference between leaders and managers is that leaders have people, a lot of people who follow them. Leaders have people who follow them, whereas managers have people who work for them. Now, a successful head of an organization or a business needs to be a balance of both a manager and a leader. He cannot just be one. He cannot just say, I have people who follow me and I have a goal in mind and people will, and I will communicate it to my team. It's not just being a leader, it's also being a manager. It should be a balance of both to be a successful leader. Now, we can see that leadership itself cannot be taught in a, but there are a few skills that are common, with all the leaders, in all the leaders, successful leaders, if I might say so. And these skills can be learned. So next slide, please. Yes. So, what are these skills that good leaders need or good leaders have? Now, one of the skills is strategic thinking. Now, strategic thinking, when you say it must be based on evidence, if there is no evidence for your thinking, it might not work in a long run. And that means being able to gather and analyze information from a wide range of from a wide range of sources. And that is when your strategic thinking and your thinking might work. Now, this is not purely about numbers. You cannot say, okay, this is the statistics and this is how it is going to happen. But knowing and understanding what your organization and your employees need, understanding that is very important. Knowing your employees, understanding what they need, what your organization needs in order to be successful, that is important. And you have to use that information to support your strategic decisions. Now, the next thing is planning and delivery. Now, a leader is no doubt organized and motivated. As a leader, there's no doubt about it. Any leader is motivated and organized, and that is why he is a leader. But he or she should also be able to plan and deliver for the organization. That becomes primary here. If there is, see, a leader might have the best vision. He aims to create something amazing for his organization, but that vision becomes useless if there is no proper planning and work towards it. And also, at the end, there should be delivery. Now, persuasion and influence is another skill. They are also very important skills that a leader would need. Finally, one particular area of communicating that's especially important for leaders is they have to be able to persuade and influence others. That is, that's when they are successful leaders. Now, next slide, sir. Yes. Now, the next thing is people management. Leaders deal with people on an everyday basis. In fact, all of us live amidst in a society and we live as social beings. Yes, but how many of us actually have to deal with people on an everyday? Yes, we have to deal with people on an everyday basis, but leaders have to manage people. And how do they do that successfully? See, without followers, there are no leaders. Now that's why these leaders need a few skills. What skills do they need? To be able to work on a one-to-one basis and also on a group basis. They have to be able to deal with people on a one-to-one basis also, if need be. And also they have to be able to address groups, large groups of employees, uh, and manage them. They need a range of tools in their armory to deal with a wide range of situations. Now, one of the first skills is they have to know how to delegate work to their team members or to the associates. And leaders and managers both need to understand how to build and manage a team. Now, they also should know how to recruit and bring employees on board so that an organization or a business runs successfully. You also need to understand the importance of performance management. Now, when there is a group of employees, you also have to have a track of how the performance is of your employees, and you also have to have the skills to manage poor performance. If excuse me, the as a leader, he or she has to know how to manage poor performance as well. It's things are not always rosy. Excuse me for a moment. So when there is poor performance, they have to manage that as well. Now, there is change management. Change keeps happening, change is inevitable. And only if there is change, there will be progress. You cannot say that I like to be in one kind of situation and I'm comfortable in this kind of situation. And and I will let it be. I do not want change, but things do not work that way. For an organization to uh, excel, for a person even at an individual level, for a person to excel in whatever he or she is doing, change is inevitable. Now, as a leader, a leader needs to understand how to manage this change, or to lead an organization. Now, a good leader should also know how to innovate and encourage innovation in others as well, not just in himself, in his employees as well. Now, for example, if you see, we in the present scenario, the COVID-19 situation, what happened overnight? The way we all worked changed overnight. It changed drastically. Now, all of us were forced to change the way we worked, and everything became digitalized. Everything is online, and we had classrooms, we had offices, we had corporate offices, we had colleges, we had lectures, classroom lectures, all of that changed overnight, and it all became digitalized. Not overnight, of course. That needed a lot of work and effort, by a leader. A leader had to put in, or a manager, or they had to put in a lot, tremendous effort to adapt to this new situation, to this new change. Now, for example, we would not have had the webinar if it was a normal situation. Now, as it is COVID-19, we have webinars. Now, even classrooms, these managers are the ones who actually changed, they adapted to change, and they successfully are carrying out, online classes, online seminar, webinars, and everything. So, leaders should know how to adapt to change. Next slide, please. Yes. A leader demonstrates a lot of skills, and a few of those skills are presented here. There is teamwork. He has to demonstrate problem solving, planning and organizing, learning, technology.
నవంబర్ అంటే దినంకి 40 వస్తావు 40,000 వస్తా ఉంటాను అయిపోయి ఇంకా బయటలు ఉండవు అంటే
Sir, if you
Hello,
could mute yourself, it
hello,
would be great.
hello. I request all the participants, please mute your audios.
ಅವ್ರು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೆಂಟ್ ನೀವೇ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು
Once again, I request all the participants to mute your audio, please. Yes, ma'am, you can continue.
Sir. Thank you, sir. So communication skills are also demonstrated by leader. And what are those skills? They have very good listening, and they understand information very well because they are good listeners, and they speak clearly and directly. See, vagueness cannot work if you are a leader. You have to be very straightforward and clear when you speak. And negotiation skills are also very important for a leader. Now, a leader also has to establish his own network within the chosen field of interest. And if there is good network, there'll be, when you have good connections and network, it's good for a leader. And also speaking and writing in languages other than English, not just knowing one language, but also being able to speak in, other languages other than English is a good thing. Is a skill demonstrated by a leader. So, also, last but not the least, which is very important, is being able to empathize and understand the needs of others, especially the customers, or in different situations, maybe your co-workers, or your subordinates, or your colleagues, for that matter. It's very important to empathize with them and understand their needs if you have to be a successful leader. Next slide, please. Yes. Now, as a leader, he or she cannot say that it's just individual work. It is not individual work, it's teamwork. So, what are the skills that are demonstrated by leaders? They're working effectively individually, or also as a part of a team is important, and working with people of different genders, races, religions, or political persuasions is important, and working with all of these people in a peaceful way is important. Taking different roles in a team is also important. Sometimes you might have to take different roles, and also giving constructive criticism. Now, as a leader, you are sometimes forced to criticize, but that criticism doesn't have to be negative. It can be constructive, which is good for the all-round development of the employee that you're giving this feedback to. Now, problem solving skills that are demonstrated by are demonstrated by developing creative, practical, or innovative solutions. Now, also when there are problems, you need to apply a range of strategies to solve problems. Now, one strategy might not work, but that doesn't mean you let the problem be. No, you have to solve the problem. So, applying a range of strategies in problem solving comes into play, and also using mathematics to solve problems. Now, sometimes when nothing works, using mathematics can really solve a problem. So, thinking in that perspective is very important. Now, applying a range of problem solving strategies to come up with a solution is also what is done by a successful leader. Now, a leader also tests assumptions or hypotheses. And another thing that is demonstrated by a leader is resolving customer complaints satisfactorily. It might be customer complaints in a business situation, or in if it is an organization or a company. It might be uh, a few not complaints, maybe a few what do you say? Um, People have a few problems that they come up to that they come with to the leaders, and they have to solve and resolve these problems that their employees come up with. So they have to have very good skills, resolving skills, and they have to give resolutions to their employees or their customers, for that matter. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And the next the next thing, the next skill that is very important for a leader, and not just for a leader, in fact, it is important for everyone in general, is communication. Now, the managers and leaders perhaps need them even more than a common man or a common employee. And I don't know, maybe I shouldn't use the word employee more here, because communication is primary to all beings. Now, but as we are talking about leaders and leadership, I am using the term leaders and employees and organization or a company and business more. But you should know that a lot of these skills that a leader needs are important for us in our life as well. Now, leaders need them even more, communication skills, because they deal with a lot of people on an everyday basis. They also have to not just deal with them, they have to manage them well. And these skills are general interpersonal skills, but successful leaders are very high, very good in communicating. They have very good communication skills. Now, that is why they are successful, because that becomes the a primary skill that anybody needs, and more so in the case of a leader or a manager. Now, when we say communication, there are many things that communication involves. The basic and primary thing that a leader has is they are very good listeners, and they are able to listen actively. And by listening to people actively, they elicit information by good questioning. They When they listen properly, they question, and that's how they get their information from. and they also show high levels of assertiveness, and they are able to bring put across their point, to the other person or to the group with without aggression, but in a very firm way. Putting across your point in a very firm way is important. At the same time, not being aggressive is very important. Even if you're a leader, you don't have to be aggressive to put your point forward, to put your point forth. They know, leaders know how to build rapport quickly and effectively to develop good, strong relationships with others. They deal with their peers, their subordinates. At times they even have hired managers, but they know how to develop a good rapport. They adapt to people and situations very quickly. And leaders also know how to give others their views on personal performance, because it's a leader's responsibility to give feedback and to give views on personal performance. Now, that is fine. Your employees, or they might accept what feedback you give, but at the same time, they also hear others' opinions of them. They are ready. They are open for feedback on themselves. That is also very vital, a vital skill for a leader to have. And they're effective speakers, equally skilled at getting their point across in a formal presentation. See, they know how, if they have something in their mind, they know how to put it across, be it a board meeting, a very big gathering, or an informal meeting maybe with your colleagues, or it might just be a casual conversation that a leader is having. They know how to speak and put forward their point, and that becomes very important. That is a very important skill for a leader to have. And now, does it all come overnight? All these skills that these leaders possess? No, it doesn't. They have honed their ability to communicate in different situations, be it a large group of people, formal presentation, or informal meeting. They have honed their skills, their ability to communicate in all these various situations, and that comes only by practice over time. It doesn't come overnight. It has to be practiced. Communication, we all think, is very natural and it just happens automatically. No, but communication is a skill that is learned. Next slide, please. So the next skill is empathy. Now, when we talk about empathy, we do bring in sympathy there. Sympathy is a shared feeling. Let me first just go to what sympathy is. Usually of sorrow, pity, or compassion for another person. You feel sympathy, you feel sorrow. If somebody is sad, you feel sad for them, and you feel it, you feel what others feel, and you show concern when you feel sympathy for them. Yes, that is there. And on the other hand, what is empathy? Is it any different from sympathy? Yes, it is. I'm sure all of you uh, do show both these feelings in your day to day lives. Yes. And what is empathy? It is the ability to be able to step into somebody else's shoes, yeah, and be aware of their feelings and what they are going through, their tragedies, their sadness, and to be able uh, uh, to be sensitive for their needs, and acting accordingly. That is, in a workplace, empathy can show deep respect for coworkers and show that you care for your coworkers, as opposed to just going by rules and regulations. We all have a set of rules and regulations to follow in a workplace, or be it in a family or in a society. Yes, but at the same time, while abiding by these rules and regulations, being empathetic to your coworkers or your fellow beings becomes very important. So, empathy is a powerful tool that can be used by leaders and employees alike, as I just said, not just leaders and employees, by anybody for that matter, any person. Now, empathy is stronger than sympathy because it is the ability to put yourself in the place of another and understand someone's feelings and you don't just understand their feelings, you also identify with them. You actually go through their pain, go through their sorrows like it is your sorrow. Now, I'd like to just uh, tell you about 2018 State of Workplace Empathy Study. This was a study by Business Solver, and it was found that 96% of the employees, which were who were surveyed, believed it was important for their employees to demonstrate empathy. They all, thought their employers have to demonstrate empathy because maybe they have been in different situations where they felt that their employers had to be a little more empathetic. Maybe they had a situation where it was a tough time for them, and they expected empathy from their upper management. Probably they did not find it, or they did, probably if they had a very successful and a good leader. And on the other hand, 92% thought that empathy remains undervalued. So here comes the other statistics. Now, 92% of these people actually thought that empathy was not valued as much as it should have been. So, you know how important empathy is. Probably you might not name it empathy, but you also have felt it. I have felt it a lot of times that maybe this person, should have been more empathetic. Now, empathy is also a skill that can be learned by practice. So, yes, let's just go to the next slide, please. Yeah. Now, there is there are these four ways. There is a psychologist called Marcia Reynolds, and she provides four ways to build empathy. And I think it's quite important to go through these four ways, in order to build your empathy, and to be empathetic. Now, she says the first one is be quiet inside and out. If your brain is constantly going, it's hard to stop. You forget to look at yourself, and you tend to ignore your own feelings. When you ignore your own feelings, when you don't look inside, it's you're bound to ignore other people's feelings. When you do not know your own feelings, it becomes very difficult for you to understand the feelings of others. That's why she says, you have to first understand yourself. And see, you cannot, if you keep worrying about your work and the tensions and the stress that you have at work, it's not really helpful. In fact, you have to be the people who help your coworkers come out of their problems, their issues, make sure they're comfortable. Be empathetic to them, and you will also get the same thing, back when you're empathetic to somebody else's feelings and what they are going through. And nobody, if a person is on his or her deathbed, they would never ever say that, I wished I'd spent more time at work. That's not something anybody would actually say, isn't it? So why worry much about it? Why not, be very empathetic and understand each other at work and build, coexist, and work uh, in a better way. So what she suggests is stop and breathe, and maybe during lunchtime you have to go take a walk, and be that quiet time helps you clear your head, and it also lets you understand more about yourself and what you're thinking and feeling. She says. Next slide, please. So the next thing is you have to fully watch as well as listen. Now, listening isn't just hearing. You say I do listen, but listening is not just hearing. Hearing is a lot different from listening. Now, when you actually listen, you understand what they are actually conveying. Listening is just hearing, and watching is also crucial to building, your ability to empathize with other people. Because when you watch and listen, you listen to their tone, the way they are speaking and their body language, and you can actually think and feel, when you pay attention to their words and their body language. Now, to build empathy in the workplace, what do you need to do? You need to see your coworkers, bosses, and direct reports to help you understand their feelings. And that usually happens when you're okay. In the present scenario, probably it's a little difficult to say that you can watch and fully listen to your co-workers or your colleagues, but we see that we're all forced to work from home, and the team is spread across, we're all working from home, and at this time maybe it is a little difficult for us to watch and listen both at the same time. But at the same time, there are a few things that you can actually use, like using video conferencing instead of teleconferencing can help you watch and also listen to colleagues. And yes, see, not all of us are comfortable on a camera, yes, on a video. And that is understandable. Maybe even I'm not comfortable on a camera. That's understandable. But this discomfort can help everyone understand each other better. We all just know that we're all human beings at the end of the day. And see, your tone of voice is also very crucial. And speaking with one another instead of communicating by mail or texts or your WhatsApp or any other services that you use, your Gmail, it's always better to first, you can give first preference to video conferencing, and then, if that is not possible, teleconferencing is the next best option. Texting or mailing, it's difficult to build empathy if you use these means of communications. Now, that's because you understand your coworker and what he or she thinks and feels when you can look at them and you can listen to their tone, or at least uh, if in the present scenario, for example, if it's a video conferencing, you at least understand their feelings a bit better, if not completely. And that is what we are aiming at. Next slide, please. Sir, if we could go to the next slide. Yes, thank you. So ask yourself what you're feeling. That's the next thing that she talks about. Now, you might say, wait, wasn't this about what others feel? Wasn't empathy about, thinking about what others feel? Yes, that's right. You need to understand others' feelings. But in order to understand others' feelings, you first need to ask yourself, how are you feeling? And for example, if we take an example of if you get a new assignment or at work, or if you get a promotion at work. Now, how do you feel, how would you feel? And if your answer is you're excited but also overwhelmed at the same time, excited, yes, that's a positive thing, and you're also overwhelmed, you feel it's a little too much on your plate because you have a lot of other new responsibilities. Yes, so there can be mixed emotions even when you get a promotion or a new assignment, or a new project which is very challenging and very something that you were waiting for. But at the same time, you also might feel overwhelmed. That's the thing. That's when empathy comes into play. Now, okay, so when you know that you'll feel overwhelmed by a challenge, you can make a good guess. See, this is a challenge. It's something you had been waiting for a long time to get a promotion. That's a good thing, yes, isn't it? Yes, but when you look at yourself, you are also overwhelmed, not just excited. Then you might just understand what others would feel if they are in a same situation. It might not always be positive, and understanding all of that is important, you know, in order to be empathetic. You have to be able to understand the feelings of people around you, just how you can look at what you are feeling when something happens, something new happens, something good happens, something bad happens. So another thing you need to understand is not everyone's experiences are the same. Not everyone feels the same, has the same feelings, even if the same thing happens. Even if there is a promotion that a person gets, and you get a promotion, the feelings and emotions that the other person has might not be similar to yours. That's what we need to understand and act accordingly. Now, that's what leads us to step 4. Now, the next step is test your instinct. Now, there is a reason this is step 4. You know what instincts are, isn't it? Now, when we just have an instinct. Yeah, this is how it is supposed to be, or this is what it is. Now, how? Okay, let's just see. Now, you don't want to just walk up to people, another person, or you meet your coworker or somebody, your friend or anybody, and just say, "Hey, I bet you're angry at your low raise." If that person was supposed to get a raise in his salary, and then he or she did not get a good raise as much as he had expected or she had expected, you cannot just go and say, "I bet you're angry at your low raise." You cannot. That might not go well with the other person. You should know what and how to communicate at what time. Maybe you should, be a little more. Probably it's best to not poke your nose a lot of times. I it might not seem like poking your nose into somebody's affairs. A lot of times, a lot of people want to be left alone and not to be commented on. um, that itself is being empathetic in such situations. You should remember, it's not always just speaking. Sometimes knowing when not to speak and what not to speak is also, empathetic. Next slide, please. Yes. Just like you, for example, I'll just give you an example here. How different people have different feelings and different reactions for the same things. Now, just like you, I spoke about an example where you got a promotion or a new project. Now, let's take an example of Jane, who received a new project, and you have examined your feelings. When you got a similar assignment or a promotion previously. Now she has got a promotion and or a new assignment, and you remember that you were overwhelmed and excited about it. Those were your feelings, but you want to test if Jane is feeling the same way. Now what do? First thing that you do is question, why do you need to know how she's feeling? If it's just nosiness, just forget it and do not ask her about how she's feeling. If at all she's your co-worker and she's very you closely work with her on some project in some project, and if you're really concerned about how the way she is feeling, you can approach Jane and probably you can say, "Wow, Jane, I just heard you got the new XYZ project. That's huge. I would feel overwhelmed by that, but also excited about the growth opportunities. How are you feeling?" You ask her. Now, what are you asking? Remember, you're asking, wow, you must be you're not saying, wow, you must be simultaneously excited and overwhelmed, because those were your feelings, when you got a new promotion. But you're not asking her that, you're just sharing her your feelings. But and also waiting, maybe thinking, excuse me. Okay. Okay. You're just waiting for her to share her feelings. You're not exactly saying, you're not dictating feelings to her, your feelings or what you think she might be feeling. But you're just saying, these are my feelings, and she might like to share her feelings or she might not. But regardless of her response, you should be there to support your coworker at all times. And if she responds that she is excited and overwhelmed, maybe you can congratulate her, for moving up in the ladder, and probably also offer her some help. And if she says, she has worked in such similar assignments before, then you can just tell her that, yes, then it must be a cakewalk for you. It is going to be very simple for you. And you can do, your work with your eyes closed. Yeah, so that's how. So, next slide, please. What are the traits and behaviors that distinguish someone as empathetic? Now, one thing is listening attentively. That's very important. And you have to focus completely on the person who's in front of you. And that person doesn't get distracted. This is also, this behavior displays empathy, paying attention to what another person is saying and not just getting distracted easily by what is going on around you, because you are listening and you do it well. That's what you're supposed to do. That shows your empathy. And spending more time listening than talking is the right thing to do if you call yourself empathetic, because you want to understand the difficulties others face and give them the feeling of being heard and recognized. Now, what are the words and phrases that you usually use in order to show empathy? Now, a few words and phrases are here. You're making total sense. You can say when somebody is telling you something, yes, I understand. That means you're telling them, I understand how you feel. And when somebody is talking to you and they're telling you, uh, how bad they have felt about something that has happened in their life recently, you just tell them that I feel such despair in you when you talk about this. I can feel the pain you feel. The words need to when this much pain. This is the needs to stop. When you're in so much pain, you can saying such things. I wish through that. Distinguishes average to mediocre leaders from those who excel. Now, when you uh, when you use empathy in the workplace, you can understand your coworkers better. And when you understand your coworkers better, everyone is happy. And that means as a team,